has gained prominence over here. In fact, as you look, this session would be focusing on yoga and meditation. So we have able resource persons, Ms. Smriti Rekha and Adinarayanan sir from Anadi Foundation. So just I'll just quickly give you a brief introduction about the resource persons. So basically, sir and ma'am are founders of Anadi Foundation. This is a social and spiritual organization which is located near Palani in Tamil Nadu. It was started in 2015. In fact, the foundation offers a number of programs based on yoga, meditation, and traditional Indian knowledge. Rural education, well-being, sustainability, and culture are the focus areas of the foundation. Adinarayanan sir has an MS in computer engineering from North Carolina State University, USA, and Smriti ma'am has an MS in information systems from State University of New York, USA. Both of them have more than a decade of teaching and research experience in academia and currently offer courses on inner development, professional ethics, and yogic neuroscience at IIT Delhi. So, with more than 2 decades experience in practicing and teaching yoga, Adinarayan sir and Smriti ma'am inspire young people through their programs that blend ancient and modern wisdom. So, in fact, this is I would say, the third outing with them. So, we, in fact, in the first edition of ATAL FDP, we had approached ma'am and sir, and we had got a very positive feedback from all the participants, and we have been constantly engaging them for all our programs, even something that we carry out internally. So over to you, ma'am, without much ado.
Thank you, Ratish sir, for the introduction, and thank you to the institution for inviting us. It's always a pleasure to be part of your programs. Let us begin the session with an invocation. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
An invocation of this nature is similar to setting the right outer environment for our progress. Whenever we do something, we make sure that the outer environment is in order, appropriate to the purpose at hand. Similarly, it's very important to set the inner environment in order. What does it mean to set the inner environment in order? It means we have the right attitudinal orientation towards the purpose at hand. This wonderful program organized here, this requires so much background work that the organizers have put in. Bhasi sir and Ratish sir. And that is to bring benefit of this knowledge and awareness to all the participants. And this further leads to spread of awareness in your respective institutions, in your respective lives. And that's how there is a chain reaction set in motion through such a well-coordinated program. Similarly, when we look at the inner environment, the right attitudinal orientations help set the tone, the platform for approaching anything, which sets things in motion. So when we say Asato Ma Sadgamaya, what is the orientation here? What is the attitude to be cultivated here? That is the attitude of movement. Asato Ma Sadgamaya. Sat means truth. Asat means a limited truth. So one needs to move from a limited idea of truth to a more expansive idea of truth. Just as, for example, in this program, you'd be exposed to content which helps clarify whatever assumptions we might have had regarding IPR issues and so on. Similarly, we introduce to children, the sun rises beyond the hills here where we are located. There are hills, and the sun rises beyond the hills. When we introduce to children, obviously the question arises, what if I step beyond the hills? Then where does the sun rise? Then the sun rises in the east. But is that the complete truth? Is it Sat? Or are there constraints to understanding this truth? That's when, if we go to the North Pole, then the sun does not rise or set. If we go beyond the Earth's atmosphere, then the sun is not moving, the Earth is rotating. So that's how, from different vantage points, we gain better and better multidimensional view of the same truth. And that is growing from Asat to Sat. In our own lives, through our life experiences, when we cultivate this attitude, then every step of our life experience adds to this process of movement from a limited idea of truth to a more comprehensive idea of truth, and it does not end. So when we approach our life in that manner, then life is a beautiful learning experience. Every step of the way, even initially, if we look at something as a challenge, still that has something to teach us. With this attitude, we are open to receiving that as a learning experience rather than struggling with it. So asatoma sadgamaya, that is the first attitude. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya. May we move from the limitation or the darkness of ignorance, the tamas of ignorance, to the jyoti of knowledge, the light of knowledge. In fact, we call this country Bharata for this purpose. Bha means the light of knowledge that brings prosperity and also freedom, liberation. That light, those who are devoted to pursuing that light of liberating and prosperity giving knowledge, that is called Bharata. Bharata. So that is the attitudinal orientation. So when we understand the inner meaning, the inner essence of words, that gives us the appropriate attitudes that we need to cherish, to hold together. Mrityurma amritam gamaya. And this light of liberating knowledge, this knowledge of prosperity and liberation, that helps us move from all constraints to beyond constraints. And for this to be successful in any aspect of life, we face obstacles from multiple dimensions. Those are called the tapatraya. That's the reason why we do shanti, shanti, shanti 3 times. The first obstacle or the challenge that we face from generally comes from nature, the natural environment. Nature around us, if it is not harmonious to our intentions, then no matter how much we struggle, we fail in our efforts. A simple example is imagine now the monsoon is very active in Maharashtra, all along the West Coast. We hear in the news of tremendous damage, tragic news of the monsoon fury.
And also, you have forest fires, landslides that happened in Himachal recently.
Yeah. So when such nature is so furious, then all of our activities get defeated. So obstacles from that line limit our success, limit our growth. And hence we invoke harmony, shanti, first at the level of nature, or at the level of divine forces, which are not exactly under our control. That's why we invoke a sense of harmony. And that invocation, does it matter? Yes, it does matter. Intention of every individual matters. The second Shanti is for harmonizing the obstacles that come from social forces and other living beings around us. If we wish to do something, for example, even to participate successfully in this program, you need a harmonious home environment. Let's say you're attending it from your home. If there is no harmony at home, you would see that most of your attention is dissipated or distracted. So even people at home need to cooperate harmoniously for you to succeed with respect to participating in this program.
And in fact, this is more true when one takes up the path of yoga or exploration along the path of yoga. Then a lot of cooperation from different social, or the environment around becomes very important. And encouraging family, encouraging friends, all this becomes necessary, whatever we take up, even if it's a new university program that we take up. Then also all the support of the entire social environment becomes important.
And of superiors, of peers, everyone's cooperation becomes very important, harmonious cooperation. The way they view you should be in a positive light. Otherwise, obstacles crop up.
And we see that, in many countries, for example, or many, even in India, we have a few states where the social situations are not so favorable for, activities to happen, or for education to happen, or for any kind of business pursuit to happen. So it means that the social dynamics are not set yet. And a lot of harmony is needed at that level so that one can be established firmly in one's, what you call swadharma, or one's purpose of life. Yeah. Like, for example, if I'm a teacher, and then my duty or responsibility towards the society is to be able to handle my sessions in a very, in a very
enlightening manner
without any obstacles. But if the social situations do not permit it, there is always, there is always a conflict there, or there is always a problem there. Then what happens is that then my classes gets disrupted. So it means that I am not able to perform to my fullest potential. And that is the reason why harmony and the social forces become very important.
And similarly, the final Shanti is what is called our own self. Our own mind can be looked at as the best friend when it cooperates, and our own mind is the worst enemy when there is no harmony. You'd see, if we are emotionally agitated or mentally agitated, our mind does not cooperate, then it so happens that whatever we try to do does not meet with success because our mind does not cooperate. So even at that level, we invoke Shanti, harmony. And nobody has a switch where one can just switch off the mind when one wants to, or one can switch on the mind when one wants to. We don't have that remote control yet. So that's where we invoke Shanti at the level of nature, at the level of society around us, at the level of the individual, our own mind and body.
And it is called Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmika. Adi Devika is to do with the divine forces. Adi Bhautika is to do with the social forces or other beings. Yeah. And Adhyatmika is what comes from within, the internal forces.
So a systematic approach to establishing this harmonious interworking so that we are successful in what we take up, successful in what we aspire to do with our life. That is the path of yoga, which harmonizes all of these working conditions in a very systematic, scientific manner. It is not ad hoc, it is not random. So everything is worked at systematically and methodologically so that one achieves reasonable confidence in succeeding in one's life. So with this short introduction, this is the necessity of an invocation. The idea was to explain why an invocation. And the necessary attitude to be cultivated so that one is successful in whatever one takes up in life. With this, let us start today's session.
So when we talk about yoga, in fact, many of these things that we just spoke about in the invocation is also relevant to the domain of yoga as well. So whenever we talk about yoga, the first thing that comes to people's mind is complicated asanas.
Yeah, standing upside down.
Standing upside down. And many people shy away from it, saying that, no, it's not for me. I cannot bend my body.
Yeah.
Or, I am too grown up to do that. Or I prefer exercise to yoga.
Yeah.
And, or many people think it is a set of breathing practices, right? Or even some people think that it is shirking family responsibility and going somewhere and then doing something which nobody understands. That is also a popular image that is associated with yoga.
Yeah.
And hence, anybody who even has a genuine spiritual thirst is discouraged from taking up the path of yoga, looking at all these dimensions. But nevertheless, let us try to understand what yoga means through what is mentioned in different texts. So that probably would help to clarify. So one of the very primary texts on yoga is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And the Bhagavad Gita too talks a lot about yoga.
In fact, every chapter is called a yoga.
Every chapter is called a yoga in its own sense. It could be Bhakti Yoga, it could be Karma Yoga, it could be Jnana Yoga.
In fact, the first chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga.
Yes.
That means even confusion can be a possibility for growth.
Growth. Yes.
Clarity comes from confusion.
And all that is accommodated within the yogic system. And when we talk about yoga, nobody expects us to be perfect right from the day one. But basically, it is a growth process. It's an evolutionary process that one goes through a lot of self-effort.
And
the self-effort is the primary thing that is recognized in the yogic.
Yeah, intelligent, reasoned out effort. So the effort is not blind effort. That's where the systematic methodological approach becomes very useful.
And when we look at the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, yoga is defined as yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Tadadrashtu swarupe vasthanam vritti sarupya mitaratra. So what it says is that don't be worried about the non-familiarity of the verses. It's a very simple thing. It defines, Patanjali Maharishi defines yoga as the state of the cessation, stoppage, or the removal of what he calls the vrittis. So when one is in the state of yoga, one is in a state of natural being, tadadrashtu swarupe vasthanam, and one is a witness to everything. But when one is not a witness, when one is not in the state of yoga, one is in the state of the vrittis. One is known or identified with the vrittis. That is what he says. So what do we mean by vrittis? Again, he defines that. He says there are 5 kinds of vrittis. Some of them are useful, some of them are not useful, some of them are painful, not painful. He says that pramana viparyaya vikalpa nidra smriti. So anybody who is introduced to cognitive sciences or the science of consciousness or the science of neuroscience, you would probably heard about different states of consciousness, where there is a waking state, where there is a sleep state, where there is a hallucinations, altered states of consciousness. All that is mentioned in the modern science.
And this is not just a theoretical mention.
Exactly.
All of us go through, we define our identity. In fact, someone asks you, who are you? We are most likely to describe ourselves in terms of the vrittis.
Okay.
So it's a very practical consideration. This is within the experience of all of us here. That's why it becomes very, very useful to understand and get a context.
And when we talk about the vrittis, he lists them as pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti. Pramana is basically a valid source of knowledge. So whenever we look at the world through our senses, through our eyes, we look at things, through our ears, we listen to sounds, So sense of touch we have, sense of taste we have, and the sense of smell we have. We cognize the world through the senses.
Yeah. What we call perception happens through sensory input. So there is sensory data coming in, processed in the neuronal pathways. In neuroscience, we talk of specific cells in our body called neurons, which help in conducting through what is called action potentials. There are electrical conductance of all of these sensory data. We've taken the data through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the taste buds, and the sense of touch. That is taken in, and that is made sense of in various neuronal networks, including the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal region. So it's a very systematic process that happens. That's how we cognize space. So even now, the way you're viewing this video, listening to the audio, all of these cognizing mechanisms are put in use, in good use, by which we make sense of the reality around us.
So maybe we can do a simple activity. You could close your eyes.
Please sit comfortably in a relaxed manner. And it's always good to start with a smile. I can see some of your profile pics. It's beautiful. You're all smiling. So similarly, invoke that pleasant sense of smile.
You can keep your eyes closed. So except the visual senses, we'll try to use all other senses for this activity. So bring your awareness to the various sounds that you're hearing.
As many sounds as possible, make an acknowledgement. You don't need to go deep into what the sounds mean and all that. But in your environment, acknowledge as many sounds, starting from the gross sounds to the subtler and subtler sounds, including maybe even the clock tick that is there in your environment, or the hum of the fridge, or hum of the air conditioning unit, or the fan, or anything.
And pay attention to what is happening when you are imbibing or listening to the sound. What is happening within you? Now bring your awareness to the various smells that you're getting from your environment. It could be the smell of food, or smell of the soil, or smell of the room, or some perfume, or whatever it is.
Or air freshener, or it's neutral.
Now bring your awareness to the various touch sensations that you're feeling, like you're sitting on a chair, how the chair is touching your body, how the clothes are touching your body, or anything else that you're feeling on your skin. It could be even the air of the fan or the breeze of the fan. Bring your awareness to the various tastes that you have in your mouth. Maybe you had breakfast, or tea, or coffee, or a juice, or whatever. Become aware of the various tastes that you're having. Now gently open your eyes. And if you could share in the chat box What did you experience when you were focusing on the various senses? Sensory input.
Wonderful.
Calmness.
Calmness, definitely.
And what was happening within you when you were focusing on the various sensations?
Just focusing on the senses, the sensory input.
Energy. Okay. Wonderful. So when Patanjali Maharishi talks about pramana, he was talking about the various kinds of cognitive faculties. Yeah, more sensitivity towards things around, definitely. So when you connect with each of these senses, what happens is that we start cognizing the information that we receive through the senses, and some kind of a recognition starts happening. Once you start feeling the chair, you know, okay, you're sitting on a chair. Or when you listen to the sound, you think about it, it's a vehicle passing by. It's a fan that is going on. Or it's a bird that is chirping. So basically what happens is that the memory, the intelligent processes, all that start kicking in. And the entire neural circuit itself starts working. Either it could be chemical receptors or it could be physical or mechanical receptors. The entire neural mechanism starts kicking in. The brain starts sending signals and a lot of recognition is happening. So that is what Patanjali Maharishi said. It is as pramana, which is a valid source of knowledge. You hear about it, you see it, you feel it, you touch it and all that. And he also talks about viparyaya, which is a wrong attribution to something. Suppose you see a tree and attribute it to a lamppost. You see a rope and you attribute it to the snake. So all these are classic examples of viparyaya, because it is something but you attribute it to something else. It's an incorrect input that you receive through your senses. Though your senses are seeing it, but some processing is different, which makes you recognize it in an opposite manner or not what it is actually. So that is viparyaya.
So basically it's wrong knowing, wrong knowledge.
Or invalid knowledge.
Yeah, most of us here are teachers. We would recognize it. I always, when I was in teaching, I used to recognize this after the exams are over and we are correcting the papers. During paper evaluation, paper correction, we recognize this. We have mentioned something in class, but what is visible in the answer sheets is quite something else. So that is viparyaya. Viparyaya is a wrong cognition, wrong attribution, wrong understanding, misunderstanding.
And vikalpa is imagination. There may not be a corresponding object, but we imagine something else, right? That happens very often. And we also have nidra and smriti. Nidra is also a vritti because a lot of processes happens during our sleep. For example, we are lying down and then there are two different cycles of sleep, which is called the REM sleep and the non-REM sleep. The REM sleep is when you have the rapid eye movement. The non-REM sleep is when your body is completely still. And during the rapid eye movement, a lot of dreams arise. The dreaming happens, especially when there is this rapid eye movement state. And dreams happen based on whatever gets projected. We see the world around us, we cognize through the senses, and all those things get projected during our sleep. And that is what we call as dreams many times. And that is also an altered state of consciousness in a way. And in the REM sleep, what happens is that in the non-REM sleep especially, the body becomes completely still. Our metabolic activity comes down. and we are completely cut off from the surroundings. We are not aware of many things. But once we come out of the sleep, we say that, wow, I had a wonderful sleep. I had a relaxed sleep. I was completely feeling fresh after the sleep. But in the sleep, we did not have any awareness.
And if we look at the neuroscience aspects behind this, neuroscience recognizes how, just a second.
Sir, would you like to share your screen?
No.
Because then I'll have to actually make you a co-host.
No, we don't have to share the screen. We're just resetting the camera position.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So when we look at the neuroscientific aspect, neuroscience, why is it useful? To be able to help us understand these cognitive mechanisms, which we look at in terms of our own life experience, our own experience that we go through every day. Neuroscience helps us understand the underlying processes. And that's where the process of yoga and neuroscience together helps us reason out very clearly. What is it that is happening? That's the reason why we are bringing in insights from yoga and neuroscience as well into this yoga session, so that we have a practical understanding of what is happening. With this understanding, then you can go forward with clarity with respect to what you wish to do with yogic practices, including meditation, breathing practices, pranayama, and so on. So with a simple understanding of it, when we say a sensory mechanism, as we have already seen, for example, the sense of vision, you have what is called the visible spectrum. These are all photons, as we study in physics. So photons of a certain electron volt, certain intensity, they impinge on our eyes screen, and there is a chemical release that happens that triggers further deeper mechanisms, which triggers an electrical signaling process that is carried forward by the neurons. Neurons are specialized cells within our body. And these electrical signals that come, billions of signals, these are all collated and appropriately managed in the central nervous pathways, by which we come to a state of perception and cognition, and deeper levels of cognition. So in the yogic process, we refer to these deeper aspects as the antakarana. Antakarana means inner instrument. So the inner instrument and the outer instrument, bahya karana. So the body is called the outer instrument and the mind is called the inner instrument. And as part of the inner instrument, we look at them as 4 components: manas, chitta, buddhi, ahankara. So ahankara is the sense of I am the doer. I am doing this. I am now listening to this talk. I am in charge of my life. Ahamkara. Now, ahamkara is not a negative term at all. It's one of the important components of the inner instrument that helps us act, that gives us a clear identity. Buddhi is the decision-making component, which helps us decide what to do at any point in time. Manas is the component that collates all the data, incoming data from the various senses. And chitta is like the storage space. It stores these incoming data as well as processed data. So when we say processed, we also attach preferences to this data. So it is not just what we see, but we also feel, okay, I like this, I don't like this. This is called preferential data or weighted data. So Preferences are attached and stored in the chitta. Manas helps collate all the data from the senses. Buddhi helps us act out depending on the incoming data. And previous data that is already there in the chitta. And Ahankara gives us a feel of clear doership, a clear identity. Now, all these are dynamic processes. By understanding these, we also understand them from the perspective of experience. So here what we are looking at is that experiential view. Neuroscience gives us a third-person view, while yoga gives us a first-person perspective. We are living our life inside out. So we are going through the experience. Now, how is that experience classified or categorized? That's what we are looking at. Because it's useful to, if we need to handle our life experiences, we need intelligent categories. So if we intelligently categorize them, then we know what is happening. Otherwise, that experience seems random. Something happens, we are not able to categorize and classify it. It is looked at as a random experience. Just like, for example, I'm sure even with this course, you would see intelligent categories help us deal with data, with experiences, with knowledge aspects. So that's where we have been looking at 5 categories of experiences, which are the vrittis. Vrittis are nothing but experiences that we experience on a day-to-day basis.
And all the ripples that we go through in our mind, the mind or the chitta or whatever the mind field is always still. But many things arise and fall in that mind field as emotions, as thoughts, as ideas, as whatever, as memories. All these rise and fall. And that is what he talks about.
Yeah.
As even one of the vritti is even Smriti, which is memory.
Memory.
And we know that, whenever we take anything through the senses, it is first processed by the sensory memory. And then it is going to the working memory. Working memory has a very limited capacity. For example, if I'm telling you 5 numbers, 10, 22, 33, 77, then 65, 26. Like that, they tell you some numbers.
I have lost it.
And you've already lost it. After 6 to 7 numbers, you've already lost it. But suppose I tell you a phone number, which is 10 digits, and it is somebody whom you know. You relate it because there is some kind of an association between the number and then a person or whatever it is. Then maybe you remember a little more. But if I give you 3 phone numbers to remember at a time, then you've already lost it. So basically what happens is that when a lot of information is bombarded in a classroom, even for a classroom, like for example, today we've come here and then we are having this online session and we are bombarding you with
a lot of knowledge.
So what happens is that the working memory gets a little overwhelmed and the cognitive load increases. That is what we call as cognitive load, when the working memory feels a little bit stressed because of all the information that is coming at the same time. This happens in a typical classroom. We as a teacher expect the students to understand whatever they say, but then we bombard them with a lot of information and then it becomes quite overwhelming for them because their memory is not able to hold beyond a certain capability. That is why we use tools like simulations or games or audiovisual tools so that the cognitive load can be reduced. And of course, yoga is a wonderful way of reducing this cognitive load because it creates the right spaces for a lot of knowledge to be imbibed.
So by increasing capability, by increasing capacity, to make sense of all of this that we are saying, let's do a very simple experiment.
Yes. Okay. Just before we do the experiment, I'll just complete this part. So when the cognitive load increases, we work towards reducing that. But then what happens is that there is something called long-term memory. And how do we push things to long-term memory? If you look at it through practice. The practice component is a very important component of any system, be it mathematics, be it computer science, or be it your own field of research, or you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a researcher. This practice becomes a very important aspect because only then things are pushed to the long-term memory and the knowledge stays there for a very, very long time.
See, cognitive load is typically experienced at multiple levels. So for a research scholar, For example, you could be a research scientist, you could be a research professor, you could be a research student doing your PhD. You would have seen that a lot of information you would have to gain from here, there, everywhere. And that increases the cognitive load. And one can feel stressed out because of the cognitive overload that is happening. So what is being pointed out here is that yogic mechanisms help in handling the cognitive load. One is through understanding the architecture of how the human system works from an insider's perspective, not just from a biological perspective. And two, by giving meaningful approaches to handling it in an intelligent manner. So that's where the cognitive load. One thing is in terms of we definitely recognize, we appreciate teachers, professors, academicians, because the cognitive load of people in academia is very high, because one is expected to teach, one is expected to do research, one is expected to publish, one is expected to bring in research funding, one is expected to counsel students, and plus you have the home front, plus you have health, all of this going together, and that could be quite a load. That's called cognitive load. It challenges our cognitive faculty, cognitive mechanisms, by which we start feeling stressed out. Why? Because of the load. It's a huge burden that we carry. But that's where capacity building or capability building, by understanding it appropriately and also bringing in appropriate practices, that helps us at least handle the load, recognize stress for what it is, take meaningful steps towards it. Because otherwise, generally the mechanisms used are either the mechanism used is basically quit.
Correct.
It is like, okay, not able to handle the load, okay, I will not do anything. Our system switches off. So that's where, as is being discussed, how does this mechanism work in terms of working set memory, short-term memory, long-term memory? How do we push it in appropriate manner so that we have a practical basis to work meaningfully in our lives, achieve meaningful success in our lives? So to be able to make sense of all this, a ton of information that we have discussed, I'm sure we have increased the cognitive load as we speak.
Maybe it sounds like a biology class that you didn't sign up for.
Yeah, we were confident that all of us are academicians here, and we would be able to handle the cognitive load. Our rural programs or other programs would be very different nature. But here we wanted for you to benefit from the knowledge as well, so that you can share this with your students, and because each academician, we recognize their footprint in terms of impact. Academicians are high impact people because they influence the thoughts and future of so many students and people around them. So that's where our investment in terms of a little understanding of these processes translates into so many lives being benefited. With that in mind, we are introducing yoga from this perspective. Okay. So just to understand vrittis, we will do a very simple experiment here. This will give you a context, working context, to be able to deal with it. So please sit comfortably. When I say comfortably, it is to become aware of the body, how your touch points with your chair or back. Are you putting in pressure sitting on your chair, or how lightly are you seated, or how heavily are you seated? These all are useful points to become aware of, because that also impacts our state of health. We could be holding tension like this, without knowing it. While being in a relaxed state of the body helps relieve that tension, because over a period of time, that tension itself can lead to severe cervical problems and so on. So that's where awareness of oneself is very useful. So please close your eyes, and it is useful to smile As I mentioned, I can see some of your profile pics and they're wonderful. You're all smiling. So it is always a good idea to smile. Smile creates a pleasant inner environment. If you're struggling to smile, we can understand it. A little bit more struggle. Become comfortable the way you are. Become aware of your thought process. What is it that you're experiencing? Your thoughts flow on. Just become aware of them. Okay. Gradually become aware of your outer environment and slowly open your eyes. Now, I wish for you to mention in the chat box what kind of thoughts predominated, knowledge-oriented or emotion-oriented. So you would have become aware of your inner feelings or thoughts during this past minute. In this, what predominated? Knowledge-oriented thoughts or emotion-oriented thoughts? What was going on in your mind? Okay, emotions, okay. No thoughts, that's wonderful. Okay, knowledge-oriented, emotion-oriented. Wonderful. These are what are called vrittis. When it is knowledge-oriented, we say pramana vritti. Pramana means basically it's knowledge. Pramana means knowledge. And when we look at emotions, we have feelings. The feelings generated from thoughts of the past. And there again, we classify it into positive emotion and negative emotion. Positive knowledge and negative knowledge. That's what the vrittis are. So no big deal. Very simple. We already are able to classify them, categorize them. And that gives us a lot of leeway.
And in fact, it could be thoughts from the past or anxiety about the future as well. That is also many people go through, where a lot of planning happens, a lot of thoughts about the future. I'll do this, I'll do that. If I do this, this will happen. A lot of imagination of consequences, all that happen. And in fact, some of them are vikalpa as well, where there may not be a corresponding object, but there's so much imagination around it.
That means, future planning. Oh, my life should be like this. Maybe this pandemic will go away and our life will turn around like this. All of those, when we consider it, we are going through the experience. But how are those experiences created? And how do we categorize them to better handle them? Because let's say, for example, we have negative emotions. So we have emotions. In the past minute, just by a little observation, you are now able to see, okay, emotion or knowledge. And even in knowledge, you'd be able to see there is correct understanding. There would be gaps in understanding. Pramana, vipadyaya. And similarly, with respect to emotions, you could have positive emotions where you feel charged up, energetic, positive, happy. These are all positive emotions. Or one could also feel like drained of energy, bitter, because something someone said in the past is haunting you, is irritating you, some irritation. All of these are negative emotions, right? This is just a categorization that we are doing. We are not analyzing your thoughts, but a categorization to help us handle them intelligently. Without categories, we don't have a handle. It seems like random thoughts. By the way, how many of you feel thoughts or feelings are random? And how many of you, if you feel your thoughts and emotions are random, please state so. If you feel otherwise it's not random, then again you could state so. Okay, random, okay. Not random, okay. Okay, so the idea of yoga is to shift from what we experience as random phenomena. Yeah, it's a collection of the past. Yeah, so the idea of yoga is to shift our experience being categorized as random phenomena, our thoughts, feelings as random phenomena, to that which is what is called cause-effect phenomena. That means we can do something, we can take charge of our lives, we can craft our destiny. Otherwise, it's not handleable. If it is random, let's say, for example, some experience happens to us which is completely random, then we have no hold over this. For example, what is the idea of research? Yeah, say, for example, even coronavirus research. If it is just a random phenomena, there is no scope for science, positive science. Science is the idea of something not being random. Because if it's random, we cannot deal with it. Similarly, yoga looks at our psychology, our psychological phenomena, as not being random. Only then it becomes a scientific pursuit. If it is random, we cannot handle it. So when we say pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smriti, all these are to look at categorization of these phenomena and then of psychological phenomena, and then taking steps in a direction which we feel is leading to a better life, a better quality of living. Right? That is the idea presented here, to be able to analyze this and take it forward by also being able to understand from multiple perspectives, from the yogic perspective, from the neuroscience perspective, from the cognitive sciences perspective, in terms of working set memory, long-term memory, how do these processes work? So that we get a handle of these phenomena as not so random after all. Because if it's random, then how do we act?
And in fact, Patanjali Maharishi goes on to say that these vrittis can be stopped or handled only through abhyasa and vairagya. Vairagya is a little bit of detachment. Maybe we'll reserve an explanation for vairagya to posterity. But nevertheless, abhyasa means practice. And he in fact defines practice to be something which is taken up over a longer period of time without any interruption and with a lot of devotion and enthusiasm. That is what Patanjali Maharishi talks about abhyasa. So that even in modern neuroscience, if you see, if anything has to become a habit, it has to be done repeatedly over a period of time, including yoga, including writing. Suppose, you're a researcher, and many researchers, talk to us about having a writer's block in terms of writing a research paper.
Yeah.
They have these genuine issues. How do I gather my thoughts? How do I do research? How do I put everything together to write a research paper? And for that, one of the key aspects is to write. Keep writing, however short it may be. Write a 100-word abstract, write a 250-word abstract, write a half a page document, write a 3-page document. Then eventually it becomes 40 pages.
So what Smriti is describing here reminds me of a very interesting movie episode that I encountered along with our son. I think that was called, there is Jackie Chan in that movie. Jackie Chan and Jade
Karate
Smith.
Kid.
It's Karate Kid. So in that, so Jackie Chan is the a teacher of this kid who wants to learn karate and kung fu from Jackie Chan. So as part of the expectation of the student is that Jackie Chan will immediately start teaching him all kinds of kicks and chops and so on. But what happens is Jackie Chan asks him to, there's a pole on which he needs to put his jacket. So Jackie Chan asks him to put the jacket and keep on. So once the jacket is put, he should bring it down, again put it on the stand. And this the kid does not understand, what's the connection between this and karate. But then as he starts putting it, Jackie Chan emphasizes he should smile. So with a smile, he should put the jacket onto this. So that is the idea of abhyasa. But over a period of time, this cultivates the right attitudinal approach to such a trivial thing like placing a jacket. So that is abhyasa. Abhyasa is one that is done with enthusiasm, knowing the objective at hand, and doing even the whatever we consider important in our lives, approaching it with the appropriate attitude repeatedly until one gains proficiency. It is just like all of us learned to walk. All of us have succeeded in walking. Nobody has failed, and that's an amazing thing. But in our courses, we'll fail students. We say, hey, you will not get it. But that's not quite true. So that's where abhyasa, the principle of abhyasa or repetition, intelligent, positive repetition, enthusiastic repetition, that principle talks of mastering anything in life just by intelligent, positive, enthusiastic repetition. Just as all of us here have mastered how to walk. None of us have failed. And that's because we have had sufficient, we have taken different amounts of time, no doubt, but we have just put in that abhyasa, the principle of intelligent, positive, enthusiastic repetition till we get it. So the same principle is applied everywhere. That is the idea of abhyasa.
When we talk about abhyasa, especially with respect to yoga, and since this session is on health and happiness, there are three dimensions that one can work upon. One is the physical dimension, the second one is the emotional dimension, the third one is cognitive dimension. And all of us face challenges in all the three dimensions. Physically, if you're a teacher who's been taking online classes for a very long time, now it's been almost 1.5 years. So it means that, the posture hurts or the eyes start hurting and we feel tired after some time.
Yeah, even our mouth, our throat dries up.
Yeah, dries up. And whatever, they're just sitting on the chair for such a long time and handling classes, looking at the light from the device and all that poses challenges to physical health. And the second is in terms of emotional health. We feel, all now everybody is, boxed up in their homes. For the first time, for a very long time, we've all been inside four walls of the home. Of course, we have been at the ashram. It's like it's an open space. But I do understand people who live in the cities. And hence, a lot of emotional challenges can crop up. The children are at home, you are at home, the spouse is at home, parents are at home. So all these things happen all the time.
Handling multiple expectations, that can be a big emotional...
And then for many people, especially during the pandemic, the way forward is not clear. Uncertainty. So then it can create a lot of emotional challenges. And you as a teacher, you as a professor, as a researcher, as a doctor, whoever you might be, you need to keep constantly updating yourself.
So
right
deadlines.
Right now you're cut off from your lab. All right, you have very limited access to your laboratory, to your research, but you have to manage it on your computer. And that can cause a lot of cognitive challenges. That can cause a lot of decision-making challenges. The challenges to the intellect as well.
And even depression might be a challenge, an emotional challenge, where it's depressive. Okay, day in, day out, I'm doing this. What am I doing? One might not have the inspiration to wake up the next day. It's like, why should I wake up today? Again, the same thing. It can get boring or depressing. So that's where dealing with these challenges in a clear manner becomes very important, because it is not in terms of challenges, does not mean we should run away from them. It's not like we need to quit That need not be the only response. And the other extreme is, okay, this everything is eliminated. We start with a clean slate. That also is not, that is an ideal utopian dream. So that's not going to happen. As I used to imagine when I was in my second standard or something, I used to imagine that if there's exam tomorrow, I would imagine that the school building, there should be an earthquake and the school building should go down. But the ground near the school building, it should not be touched. Okay, that's important, you know. The school building can go down, but the ground should not be touched. Yeah, playground. But that never happened, you know. Likewise, we might have any imagination. That is okay. We can use all our imagination skills, but that is still a dream. What we need to have is something like a practical approach by which we can make delta improvements, you know, so that our life gets back on track. That's how, when we approach these challenges, we will give practical tools now by which you'll be able to make those changes in your lifestyle, which help you positively deal with these challenges if you face them. So physical, emotional, and cognitive aspects. Because there are meaningful ways to overcome and engage with these challenges. It need not be a fight or flight response. Okay. So with respect to the physical challenges, you would see one of the important challenges is the lack of energy, you know, becoming down in energy, or even the pain in the body, you know. So these are practical aspects, also health. So that's where a very simple aspect is, in yogic process, we define asana as sthiram sukham iti asana. Sthira means that which is firm, and sukha means that which is comfortable. So we always start with the posture. The posture needs to be steady and comfortable. So towards this, let's do a very important practice. It is called the rotation of awareness, where first we start with introspecting how the state of our body is. That's a very, very important thing. How do you feel now with respect to your body? That gives you an inner compass, and there appropriate interventions can be introduced. So get this idea straight. This is very useful as an idea and an approach. The first step is to be able to introspect the state of your health. How do you feel? Connect with your feel. So that's what we are going to do as the first step before moving on to specific practices. So this is called rotation of awareness. So please sit comfortably straight. Please close your eyes. Become aware of the body. Now, as I mentioned specific parts of the body, you're going to move your awareness step by step. I mention a part of the body. You pay attention to that part of the body and see if there is any pain or some discomfort. If so, you can stretch it a little bit. Become aware of your feet and relax your feet. See how much pressure you are placing on the ground. Adjust your position so that you're not placing too much pressure on the ground, because that itself can cause some discomfort. Become aware of your calf muscles and relax them. Become aware of your knees and relax them. Become aware of the lower part of your body and relax your lower part of the body. Become aware of your lower back. The back gets strained as we sit in a sedentary posture. It's important to become aware of the lower back. and relaxing. Become aware of your upper back and relax it. Become aware of your abdominal region. If you are holding tension in your abdominal region, relax your abdominal region. Become aware of your chest. Relax your chest. Become aware of your arms. And relax your arms. Become aware of your shoulders and neck. Relax your shoulders and neck. Become aware of your face, your eyebrows, your forehead. Are you holding any tension? Just become aware of them and relax your face. Having a calm, smiling face is a sign of good health. Now become aware of the entire body. And let there be no tension anywhere within your body. Now slowly open your eyes. This is called a rotation of awareness. So with rotation of awareness, we gain a feel for the body. How does it feel? Now, let's move on to a very simple relaxation practice. Simple movement with awareness, with coordination, helps in relaxing the body. And relaxation is very, very important in gaining good health, because that's the feel factor. By now, you would have gotten a feel. Even pain, it's important to connect with it and feel the pain so that you would understand the root cause as to why the pain is happening in the first place. Otherwise, we are always out trying to avoid pain. That might not help. So that's where, by connecting with how we feel, we overcome the pain. So let's do some simple stretches. So first, we stretch our hands and crunch our palms, crunch your elbows, rotate your shoulders, inner shoulder rotation. You would see by now you would have a feel for your body and you'll be able to experience the deep relaxation. Neck, look up, look down, and rotate in a relaxed manner. The important thing is to connect with how you feel. That's the difference between yogic practice and exercise. Yogic practice is more introspective in nature. It connects with how you feel. That understanding helps you prevent disease conditions or health issues later on, before they arise. Just the simple movement, you would be experiencing deep relaxation by now, I'm sure. Similarly, for the lower part of the body, stretch your legs and crunch your feet, crunch your toes and release them. Crunch your toes and release them. Similarly, knees, if you are able to bend and straighten, that would be very helpful. Bend your knees and straighten your knees. Bend your knees and straighten your knees. And if you are able to, you can stretch your arms up and stretch your spine. Pull your spine up. This will lead to tremendous relaxation. But this might also be a little painful for some of you, but that pain gives you an awareness. Okay, what kind of posture have you been holding all this while? Then bend sideways. This is called lateral bending. Sideways. This is called Tiryaka Tadasana. Simple bending in a relaxed manner with awareness. You'll be able to identify if there is pain. If so, how is it being caused? Relax yourselves. Now, twist sideways. Twist. And that itself. Now, these are very simple practices, but done along with introspective awareness, they can prevent health issues before they arise, prevent pain before they arise. Similarly, if you can bend forward from your waist and look up, slightly bending back. Bend forward and look up. So again, if you take a moment, close your eyes and rotate your awareness throughout the body, you'll see from the time we started 2 minutes back to now, there will be a huge difference in how you feel the body. The body would be so comfortable, relaxed, light. Now, let's move on with the practice. Just give us a moment. Now, we'll move to simple pranayama practice. Pranayama means increasing the prana. Pranayama means expansion of prana. Pranayama means control or mastery over prana. But this practice would be more towards expansion of prana. Prana is that life energy, which is linked to our breath as well. So breath is not the only prana. Prana is also electromagnetic in nature. Prana is everywhere. The whole nervous process is considered pranic. Okay, so when we say prana, it's not just to do with breathing, but breathing helps us regulate prana very easily. Okay, it gives us a switch, a handle over prana. So please sit comfortably. And it's good to start with a smile again. We cannot overemphasize this, but it might sound cliched, but still not a problem. Even this might elicit a smile. It will be like, one is struggling to smile, but that itself over a period of time, you fake it and then you make it. That also sounds cliche. Now, please become aware of the breathing. If need be, you can close your eyes. So as you become aware of your breathing, gradually pay attention to your breathing out process. So your out breath. First become aware of your out breath. When you focus on your out breath, what happens is you start breathing out completely. So to help you breathe out completely, you can slightly push your stomach in as you breathe out and slightly blow the air out with your nose. This will allow you to breathe in deeper. So as you breathe out, you push your stomach slightly in and slight blowing of air out. And then you breathe in deeply. So breathe in deeply. And as you breathe out, towards the end, slightly push your stomach in and breathe out slightly forcefully. This will allow you to fill your lungs with air. And that feels good. Let's do it for a few times. You'll clearly experience, as you breathe in, you feel so positive, relaxed, calm, and energized. And visualize that as you breathe out, all your tensions, your negativities, your irritations, anger, all the negative emotions, the negative feelings are leaving your system. And you're breathing in positive energy. The way we intend, intentions are very powerful. We can intend positivity in our lives, to fill our lives with positive feelings, positive emotions, positive thoughts. Gradually shift your attention to the region between your eyebrows. You're breathing in deeply and breathing out slowly in a gentle rhythm, completely comfortable, and gently gazing at the region between your eyebrows. Invoke positive inspiration in your life. Visualize your life to be great. Great in terms of the positive impact, the meaningful impact to yourself and the people around you. Through your work, through your life, you create positive, meaningful impact, beneficial impact.
Keep your eyes closed. Let us conclude with an invocation. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
May the benefit that we receive spread joy and happiness to everyone around us. Slowly open your eyes with a smile.
So thank you for joining this session. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. If you have any questions, you can ask.
The participants can unmute themselves and pose your questions directly to the resource person, because I don't see any questions in the chat box. So if there is anything, you can do that.
Sure.
Ma'am,
Dr. Devakar, I am audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Devakar, I have one interesting question. As we all describe this like memory, as we all aware that the skin is the longest and the largest sensory system in our body. Is the memory we generate from
Sorry, sir.
It's not fully audible.
okay.
The volume is less.
Okay. will make my mic here. Now I'm audible. Okay. So as we all aware from the science and as well as from our not mathematical system, our Indian knowledge, that skin is the largest sensory system in our body, and it sleeps so many types of senses. My question is that the skin or the environment in which I am sitting or I am doing some yogic activity represents my separateness or perfectness of the uh, signals or the system which I want to generate from the or I want to establish the system. Is it there or is I have to practice it in a particular environment so that I can work with it? Particularly skinny environment means I am talking about temperature and other
Yes. So from what I understood, it was not fully audible. I think your question is about the skin and also the garment and on the place where you sit.
That's it.
Yeah. So in fact, the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6 is dedicated to Dhyana Yoga. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna talks about specific aspects of meditation and the props that can be used for meditation as well. So he gives us tips that you choose a very clean place and a serene place, which is free of impurities and polluted material. And you choose an asana, which is not too high, not too low. Like a simple asana. And he talks about using grass, using a cloth, and of course deer skin, which is now it is not legal to use it, of course. But nevertheless, he hints at using natural material to sit upon for a deep experience of dhyana.
Also, what happens is the pranic energy that is generated through the practices of yoga, including meditation, they need to be, if we look at the electrical mechanism of the system, those need to be re-invoked,
yes,
or fed back into the system for a growing loop of energy.
Or otherwise, what happens is that the energy that we gain gets dissipated outside the system. Yeah. So it's important to retain it within the system and also redirect it for better benefit. Yeah. And hence these material become important.
So that's where dharba grass mat or simple straw mat, simple insulating and energizing material are used. Simple cotton cloth, all these are considered very helpful.
And yoga mats, though they insulate in a certain sense, but definitely they are plastic. So, plastic or, you can call it synthetic material. And hence they may not be so very beneficial, though that's the only thing that we predominantly see in the market. And especially with respect to clothing, we have seen that if the body has to breathe, just as, if you sit in a mud house, it's very different from sitting inside a concrete house. So similarly, wearing synthetic clothing, plastic-based clothing creates a lot of difficulties, whereas some natural clothing, simple cotton clothing, which has simple dyes, really help the body to breathe and also retain the energy in a better manner without it getting depleted or wasted or dispersed.
That's where, again, this is just a practical angle. Whatever is comfortable for you to start with, please proceed ahead with it. With growing experience, anyhow, these all get reinforced as we grow in sensitivity. Yes. So the main idea is these are all supportive aspects. But the core thing is that investment in our own growth.
So whenever we talk about yoga props, so people then wonder, should I go for a shopping of a laundry list of items before I start my abhyasa? But the idea is to start as soon as possible, do with whatever is available at the moment, but definitely improvising the experience through changing these things in the environment.
So that's where it's an iterative model, where one revisits, grows, revisits, growth, but then one is growing on a, it's an upward spiral. It's not a straight path up, but it's more like a spiral up.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a wonderful. I really confused in that, and you have cleared all the things. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Ratish. If there are no further questions, I think it's 11 o'clock. We hand it over to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, I think.
Thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful thing meeting you all. We wish you all the very best.
Yeah, I think we have the vote of thanks due to you, sir.
Yes, sir, may I please invite Shweta Bhupesh, first year LLM IPR PhD, to deliver the vote of thanks. Shweta.
Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, Shweta.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shweta, and I'm here to present the vote of thanks for today's online webinar first session. I would like to thank our resource person, Adinarayanan sir and Smriti ma'am, for enlightening us with their knowledge. It gave a deep insights into the knowledge of yoga and also revealed some interesting facts about being aware of the body and the surroundings. The point where resource person told us about the significance of being in the state of yoga and the way they explain the kinds of riddhis and activities and all are really informative. I'm sure the precious knowledge they gave us will definitely help us in our future life. Once again, I thank Smriti ma'am and Adinarayanan sir for taking out time from their busy schedule and enlightening us with their knowledge. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank IUCAPRS and ATAL Academy for conducting this online workshop and the coordinators of this workshop. And also, thank you to all the participants present here for paying attention to this session. Thank you. Thank you so much.